Hello, world. This is Tommy Hagewood coming to you from Leesburg, Florida, the lakefront city in the Sunshine State. It's 77 degrees on the way to 80 degrees on a rainy day. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm thinking of a song. I've never thought that the song that I'm considering is a pretty song or a catchy tune. It's the kind of song that does not stick in your mind and you find yourself singing it during the day, but I personally think it has one of the most powerful messages of any song that we sing at church. It's an old song written in 1874 by Theodore Monod, and it's entitled None of Self and All of Thee. The first verse is, "Oh, the bitter pain and sorrow that a tune could ever be, when I proudly said to Jesus, all of self and none of thee. All of self and none of thee. All of self and none of thee. When I proudly said to Jesus, all of self and none of thee." This verse is so true of so many people. But when I think about my own journey through life, I find myself in the difficult situation of trying to learn self-denial. Jesus said this is the very first step that a person must take in discipleship, according to Matthew 16:24. It's not natural to deny self. It's not easy to deny self. It's not the popular way to deny self. So most people opt for the easy way, the self-satisfying way in life, but what a price they end up paying, as suggested by the first line of the song, "Oh, the bitter pain and sorrow that a tune could ever be." The second verse shows how one can progress through life. "Yet he found me, I beheld him bleeding on the cursed tree. And my wistful heart said faintly, some of self and some of thee. Some of self and some of thee, some of self and some of thee. And my wistful heart said faintly, some of self and some of thee." Who is it that can't be touched by the wretched scene of Jesus hanging on the cross? So Jesus is welcome to have some of my time and some of my talents and some of my treasure. After all, he died a horrible death and deserves a part of my concern in life. But Jesus doesn't want some of my time, some of my talents, or some of my treasure. He wants it all. Wow, what a difficult task Jesus has to convert a sinner like me. Verse 3 shows the conquering power of Jesus as one progresses through life. Day by day his tender mercy, helping, healing full and free, brought me lower while I whispered, less of self and more of thee. Less of self and more of thee, less of self and more of thee, brought me lower while I whispered, less of self and more of thee. When a person reaches this point, he's on the right track, but he hasn't gone far enough. But many don't get this far in life. They stop with some of self and some of thee, giving him some of their time and some of their allegiance, but not all of it. This may sound better than all of self and none of thee, but the final outcome is no better. Jesus wants all of me. The fourth verse says it all. "Higher than the highest heaven, deeper than the deepest sea. Lord, thy love at last has conquered none of self and all of thee. None of self and all of thee, none of self and all of thee. Lord, thy love at last has conquered none of self and all of thee." This is far more than most people are willing to go. Maybe some of self and some of thee, or less of self and more of thee, but not none of self and all of thee. That's just more than most people are willing to go. But that's what Jesus demands if we would be his disciples. Measure what I say by the word of God. Paul said in Galatians 2 and verse 20, "I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me." What Paul says of himself must be true of every child of God, because the old person of sin is crucified with Christ when one is baptized into Christ for the remission of his sins and arises from the watery grave of baptism to walk in newness of life, the life of a Christian, the life of Christ, according to Romans 6, 3 through 5. Paul never regretted giving up his former life and denying himself to let Christ live in him. Read Philippians 3, 4 through 11, and note how Paul counted the advantages of his former life as rubbish that he might gain Christ. Where are you in your journey of life? Have you given up everything to let him live in you? Interestingly, this is the only way you can live to be all that you can be, to find true joy, real purpose, eternal hope, and complete fulfillment in your life. Think on these things. Search the Scriptures. Serve the Lord, share the gospel with others. Until next time, this is Tommy Hagewood wishing for you a wonderful day.